The headline for today's meeting is You don't need a fast metabolism or good genetics. All right. And this is attacking an internal false belief that some people may have when it comes to achieving or accomplishing fat loss. I'm sure for all of you, this isn't the first time that you've had a goal of fat loss, of achieving your goal body. I'm sure for all of you, this isn't the first time that you've made an effort to achieve that goal. And I'm sure like all of us in the past, we've failed before, you know. But I know that some people, after having gone through this yo-yo, feel like they're so special that they can no longer accomplish success losing the fat. They feel like no longer what they try, they can't accomplish success losing the fat. I'm sure that category is none of us in here, but I just want to speak to that ideology and pretty much break it down and add some value to you all today. So let me go ahead and take you all back to pretty much a story, right? So go ahead and share my screen as well. All right. So let's take us back, right? This is way back when. This is 2017, right? So this right here is pretty much my second bodybuilding competition that I did ever, right? Now, for 2 years in a row, I competed in men's physique and I placed second place both times. Now, both of these experiences, I prepped myself, I coached myself, I did the best of my ability. But I grew frustrated, right? I mean, it's hard to go backwards and, it's even hard to stay the same. We often want to accomplish some type of progress in whatever we're doing, right? Especially if we've taken a whole year dedicated to moving forward. So I remember after placing second 2 years in a row, while I was prepping for my third show, I had about 9 weeks left of prep, and I looked good, but I didn't look stage ready, right? Like I had the visible abs. I probably looked something like I did in this second show that I prepped myself for, right? I had the visible abs, but I still had a little bit of, love handles on the side. It wasn't 100% tight, like they want to see on stage. So at the time, I had been training at 24 Hour Fitness as a personal trainer for a little less than a year at the time. And one of my coworkers, Anna, and her husband at the time, they were from Hawaii, and they had actually done a lot of competitions themselves in Hawaii. For those of you who have been Hawaiians, they're definitely big on fitness. They're definitely really into it. So they had actually accomplished some success competing out there, and they just so happened to see potential in me. Kind of similar to the story that I shared 2 weeks ago about my second ever mentor when it comes to, fitness coaching. But this was pretty much my first experience with a mentor when it comes to my fitness goals, right? So they decided to help me and they provided me with a plan. The plan was a bit aggressive, I will admit, but I mean, like I said, I only had what 9 weeks left before the show. So essentially what happened was I followed the plan to the T, and this was my very first first place win at a bodybuilding show, right? On a bodybuilding stage. This was back when I was doing men's physique. So this experience compounded by, my 10 years of actually training clients one-on-one in person, I noticed that pretty much every single client who dedicated, 2 to 3 times in the gym with me per week, all of them experienced increases in their strength. They built muscle, increase in their muscularity, but I noticed that it was only a percentage of clients who really lost the amount of fat that they were hoping to lose, right? It was a percentage. And over 10 years of training clients, I noticed that it was due to one commonality, right? There was one common denominator in the clients who achieved the fat loss that they had desired and the clients who had not achieved the fat loss that they desired, right? Because both clients who had dedicated these times for me had accomplished muscle building, right? but only one group accomplished the fat loss. So my first experience with the mentor, compounded by my 10 years as a trainer, taught me these four frameworks that I'm going to share with you guys today. Let me go ahead and come back. So, number one, right? The first framework, have a plan that creates a calorie deficit and stick with it, right? Now, the important caveat in this step number one is that this plan must create that calorie deficit with nutrition alone, right? With nutrition alone. And if you can create this calorie deficit with nutrition alone, then everything else is just icing on the cake. All the cardio is just icing on the cake. Because I know it's very cliche when they say you can't outrun a bad diet, but in fact, it is true because you can only burn so many calories, whereas it's so much easier to consume that same amount of calories. All right. So that's step number one. Now, moving on from step number one, step number two is track your food intake because what's measured is accounted for, right? If we're not measuring what we're taking in, how can we know whether we need to eat more or eat less, right? If there's so many inconsistencies in the amount we eat, we one handful of nuts one day might be 3 ounces, and then the next, or sorry, yeah, 3 ounces, whereas the next day it might be 4 ounces. Then there's no way that we can really understand like what are we doing that's not getting us towards our goals, and what are we doing that's bringing us further away from our goals. So this is the importance of tracking your food intake, and this is why in our meal plan in the program, I have everything weighed out or measured out in some way. So everyone here has a food scale, and that's how we make sure we are on the right path. All right. Now, third, eat enough protein to maintain and or gain lean body mass or muscle mass, right? And in doing this, this is going to help us fight or avoid a very common occurrence when going under a fat loss diet. You know, last meeting we were kind of talking about how some people they've lost fat and they ended up being skinny fat, or some people who diet a lot and a lot and a lot, they end up kind of reducing their metabolism. So every time they try to diet, their metabolism is even lower. A lot of times, you know, in addition to the calorie deficit, which we can touch on another day, this is largely due to losing their muscle mass, right? So maintaining or building your muscle mass while losing fat is going to help you guys maintain your metabolism, and it's going to help you achieve that look, that shape that you desire at the end of the day, instead of just looking like a shrunken down version of a, you know, a bigger self. And then number four, right, is take an evidence-based approach. Now, when I say evidence-based, I simply mean we're going to reference our results in the real world to know how we're going to make our next move, right? So if you begin a meal plan that has you in a calorie deficit, you're tracking your intake and you're eating enough protein, then everything lines up. You should be losing weight, right? Or fat. Fat and weight are slightly different, but in all, they all come down over time, right? And then that's good evidence. We know that we just want to continue our approach. Now, let's say you notice that you're not losing weight or losing fat. Let me make sure that I'm very specific here because they're not equated. Let's assume that you're not losing fat. Now, so long as you are tracking your food intake, now we can look at the first two things and see, okay, maybe this plan either wasn't or is no longer putting you in a calorie deficit. So based on our evidence, because you're tracking your food and you're following this plan to the T, we know that we have to adjust the plan and that you're going to continue to get the evidence that you're looking for, right? And so on and so forth. So we're looking at how your body responds to know, okay, let's continue or let's not. But it's all dependent upon you first having an initial plan that puts you in a calorie deficit and sticking with it, tracking your food intake, eating enough protein, And then from there, we look at the evidence. So, taking this framework, right? Let me give you guys some more examples that kind of highlight the ability of anyone to achieve success, whether they're obese, whether they're overweight, as long as they can follow these principles. And also examples of people who have expended crazy energy, who've been athletes, who've gotten ready for marathons, and still didn't get the fat loss that they desired until they changed the nutrition. So let's start off with our boy Brent, right? Start off with our guy. Let me go ahead and share this screen again. All right. So this is Brent from way back when, right? I was hoping that he would be here today, but it's okay. He'll be able to catch the playback. So Brent started overweight. He's been overweight damn near his whole life, right? And we literally talked about this. This is what's real. I mean, I'm giving you the facts, right? He's overweight his whole life. He called himself fat. His words, not mine. All right. So he started playing competitive sports in 2010, basketball, and he was still fat, right? This is when he was in sixth grade in 2010. And he played competitive basketball all throughout high school. And his words, not mine, he was still fat, right? Now, it wasn't until we started working out in 2016. And when I say working out, let me rephrase that. It wasn't until we started working together and I started giving him coaching online in 2016 that he finally started losing fat. And what changed? Because I told you he's been playing competitive basketball all throughout high school and he was still fat. So what did we do differently outside of working out in the gym? We changed his nutrition and he stuck with that plan. I gave him a plan. He tracked his food, made sure he was sticking with the plan. I made sure his plan had enough protein to maintain his body, his lean body mass. In fact, it looks like he's getting more muscular over time. And let's see kind of what happened while we were working together. So this is over years of working together, right? But let me show you our initial run, what happened. So when we first started, he was 250 on the left, and you guys have seen this already, but I want to tell you more about his story. And on the right, we got down 35 pounds to 215. Now, as you can see here, he's not looking super skinny fat to me. It looked like he's keeping some shape and even has a little bit more tone in his muscles at this lighter weight. Now, let's take it a step further, right? Because he was able to maintain, because of our success together, this 215 after this was in 2017. In 2019, he had maintained a weight of 222 pounds. We went for another round and we got him back to 215, but this time look at how much better he looks. You see how much more full his muscles are. And now you can actually see a little bit of definition in his upper four abs too, right? And this is all a result of the framework. You're seeing someone who did not have good genetics at all. His words, he was fat and he was playing competitive sports. And once we changed his nutrition and he stuck with it and he followed these four steps in this framework, he accomplished this uncommon success. Let me give you guys another example. Here's Dave. Now, Dave's on the left in the yellow with a weird stance, right? I'm sure his cameraman just didn't do him justice. But I have to get some after pictures for you all for this one, but I'm still going to share with you his story. So Dave, he's an athlete at heart, right? In fact, years ago, he had actually trained for a marathon, a full marathon, running miles on miles and miles, more miles than I could even imagine running or nor would I ever want to run. And while he was training for his marathon, he still never achieved the body fat that he was looking for. He still had the belly that he was trying to get rid of. And he was spending all this time expending energy. We started working together about 2 years ago. In our time together, he somewhat implemented the meal plan that I provided him, but he committed to 1 to 2 times a week training with me, right? And then he also made sure he trained on his own because we weren't getting the 3 or more sessions in together. Now, in our time together, he has built muscle. And next time I tell this story, I'm going to have numbers and pictures. He built muscle and he liked that. He was stronger. He looked more jacked. He liked what was going on, but his belly wasn't going down. And that bothered him, right? So recently, probably no more than I would say 4 months ago, he finally cut out the late night snacking. He came clean. He let me know. I followed the plan really, really good until night when I get home from work. I just want a snack. And he's eating things that he felt like was healthy, but he was eating way too much of it and it wasn't on our program. So when he finally gave up this late night snacking, he found that he began to lose his body fat. And now he's sitting somewhere around like 13 or 12% body fat with like a 2 or 4 pack that's visible up top. And like I said, I'm gonna give you guys some real numbers and some real pictures next time I see you guys or next time I tell this story. But take this story for what it is. He is not training for a marathon anymore. He's not doing even a fraction of the amount of cardio that he was doing before. He's probably doing less, but because he's following our meal plan, he's achieving more and he has the body fat percentage that he's looking for. All right. So these are two examples of people accomplishing success with this framework that clearly demonstrates you don't need a fast metabolism or good genetics to accomplish success and accomplishing to accomplish your dream body. All right. Nor do you need to kill yourself in the gym doing countless hours of cardio to accomplish your dream body. You just have to follow these 4 steps. Again, have a plan that creates a calorie deficit, stick with it. Track your food intake. What's measured is accounted for. Eat enough protein to maintain or gain your lean body mass, and then take an evidence-based approach. All right. So there we have it. That is pretty much the message for today. Uh, to just continue to increase your conviction in what you're doing and what we're doing here with our natural body program, that it works and that there's no exception for who it can work for. All right. The only exception in the world that I can think of is if there's something under the iceberg, right? If we got hormones that are out of whack, it's going to be a little bit of an uphill battle, right? I encourage everyone to do their annual physical, get their blood work once a year, but 9.5 times out of 10, that's not the case, right? It's just a matter of getting in line with this framework and understanding that if we can do that, we will accomplish results.